Hello. Hello, friends. Welcome to Age of Quarantine. Oh, wait. Hey, Mike. How's everybody doing? Trying to stay in, in compliance with the things that are going on. Can everybody hear me? Okay. I'm trying to do this the right way. I'm unfortunately unable to be at home, so I'm at my current bar where everybody seems to want to talk. Yes, we're waiting for the mighty Steve Brodsky of Cave-In and Mutoid Man fame, amongst other things. He's been in a zillion things, and he is quite possibly one of the best guitar players I've ever seen play. Very underrated because he's not considered a guitar hero, but he should be. Okay, if anybody is bothered by the background noise, just let me know, and I'll maybe try and go outside. But I'm waiting for Steve. What up, Steve? I'm sorry, I forgot. Yes, Rock Magic joined. Anyway, how's everybody doing? Living, surviving, dealing. Things are fucking crazy still, as usual. Bye, Joe. And we're oh, there's Steve. Steve's joining. No, they're not clinking glasses, Mike. Nobody's doing any of that. That's completely illegal. Let me see. What's going on, dude? Like, so you've been really busy during this whole thing. Like doing stuff with 2 Minutes of Late Night, and I think you've been, I'm sure you've been recording secretly somehow. What have you been up to, man? Like, give us the lowdown. Before we go backwards, I want to go forwards.
What's that? Backwards, forwards?
I said before we go backwards, okay. I want to go. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, it's actually been a pretty potent creative time for me. The best way I can describe it is like there's a radio station where all the chatter of tour exists, you know, like travel, practice, merchandise, labels, promotion, blah, 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 blah. And that station has essentially just been turned off. So that space, all that bandwidth that usually goes to like planning that stuff, I've just been allocating all my creativity towards it. So it's actually been a really good time. I know it's tough for people, you know, because their worlds are flipped upside down. I'm sure you can relate. Like the amount of help that you have has been reduced greatly, I'm sure, or the option you have for sort of, you know, having people come in and help out with family stuff. So it's interesting, you know, I don't have any kids, so, you know, all my time can really go into just writing right now. And I've just been trying to make the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I you know, me and you have talked about songwriting quite a bit over the years, and I'm having right now. It's like, I mean, obviously I have a kid, but it's a very difficult time for me to sort of prioritize songwriting in any way, shape, or form in my life, or being creative, because I'm just like, well, I obviously I own 2 businesses too, you know, and music has been your mainstay as far as income goes for quite a bit. So it's super difficult to sort of deal with all of that at the moment, you know. And I don't know, like, although I feel like I've written some of the best stuff I've ever written in my life, I've written very little of it, you know. And
yeah.
So with you, like, has it been cathartic doing the 2 Minutes of Late Night thing? Has it like, you know, like, because it's super interesting to watch you do all that stuff with all those like other great musicians, you know? Like, how has that been for you?
Oh, it's great. I mean, just learning other people's songs. It's just a real simple exercise, but it increases creativity, musicality, gives you a greater understanding of the music world just beyond your own mind's boundaries. And then on top of that, adding different musicians into the mix to kind of just throw curveballs and really randomize things. Also working with Jordan and Too Many for Late Night, there's got to be an element of comedy. So we just try to sort of throw in like a little, you know, curveball or a laugh or something. And it's great, man. It's really taken off, especially with, I feel like now with touring off the books for most musicians, people are looking to be creative and they're looking for like quality outlets to kind of shift the balance toward. Shows
Right.
off that. People have involved, and it's been great.
That's cool. I mean, like, it's interesting to watch and like, so for me personally, over the years, I've obviously watched you play. I've watched you do various things. We played shows together, blah, 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 whatever. Uh, whether it be Cave-In or Mutoid or whatever. And I feel like you are probably one of the most underrated guitar players in history, honestly. Like your right hand is up there with Dave Mustaine and Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield. I first of all, I've never seen anybody like, you know, like I want to go through your history because I find your whole thing very fascinating. Where you're kind of you always came off as a very shy guy to me. Like early on back in the day when you were younger and Cave-In and, you know, I think we played Reading and Leeds together, and I remember hanging out at the Columbia Hotel with you, and you were very like, you know, you were very standoffish, and maybe it took a few drinks to make you a little bit looser, but you know, it's like you just like watching you play though, I felt was an expression of yourself in ways that you couldn't express yourself normally. And it was pretty cool. So I want to go back to the beginnings of Cave-In. Cave-In is, so you guys were all kids. I mean, literally like 10th grade, right?
Yeah, yeah. The band started in 1995, spring of 95. So, yeah, we were sophomores in high school. Yeah, youngsters, little shits. Yeah, I was thinking about it today, you know, knowing that we were going to talk about this sort of thing. And I think it's a lot younger than some people start, but also in this day and age, like with the internet, um, I've seen videos of like 6-year-old shredders, you know, shredding a guitar, shredding a skateboard, shredding whatever. I don't know if that was as likely back when we were sort of growing up, you know,
Right.
kind of finding our bearings with stuff.
No, totally. And it's like, so run me through like the demos until your heart stops. How did you meet Kurt? How did you guys like, I mean, I know how you guys all met each other, but like, so like Kurt kind of became a big part of that whole Boston scene, and recording a lot of people at God City. Like, how did you meet Kurt? Like, was Converge together? Was that like a thing? You know, like how did that all happen?
The first time I met Kurt actually was from answering an ad in the Want ad. You remember those? So for people who don't know, that's a print publication, and it was like classifieds for everything, you know, mostly stuff for sale. I was looking for a new guitar cabinet, and I saw that there was one for sale in Andover, Massachusetts. Now, I'm from Methuen, so Andover is the neighboring town. I was like, that's super easy. This thing's only $100, $150, whatever. And I call the number, and it ends up being Kurt on the other line. And so we end up figuring out that we know each other, or like he knows of my band or heard of my band, or like we have mutual friends and piebald. And so because of that, at pretty early conversation, he's like, you don't want this cab, it's a piece of shit. That was like my first conversation with Kurt. And actually, I was talking to Adam McGrath about this. Adam from Caven. He just did an interview recently with one of the guys from Hoover. They do it's a interview. It's a site that talks all about like punk bands. Is it punk? I can't remember the name, but it's all about vans, right? And so we got to talking just about like kind of going over some history together. And Converge actually wasn't an active band at the time that Caven first started. They were like these local heroes, but I don't remember what was going on. I think Kurt was like, he was in school for something, some sort of engineering. I don't know. He was like, making weird smoothies with like Martian's blood or something.
Just like he makes his,
he probably had to sign an NDA. So
it's the same way he makes his pedals and his amps and his guitars all the time. Yeah, it's that's awesome.
Yeah, some mutant formula from like another galaxy, but they weren't an active band at the time that came.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
Oh, the Converge was not an active band.
Going so far, you guys. Oh yeah,
Converge was.
Yeah, we befriended Piebald. That was
Okay.
That was an active band from Andover. They were like really sort of pushing it. They had their own van. They were booking shows. They did a tour to Florida, which was like
Crazy,
very prestigious at the time.
Whoa.
Florida.
They went to Gainesville. Shit, they played the hardback. Sick.
Yeah.
That's crazy shit. But I mean, you're still in high school at this point. You're still in high school at this point, right?
Yes. Yeah. We're
sophomores. Okay.
Yeah. So.
I mean, it's crazy. So how old were you when you recorded Until Your Heart Stops? How?
Well, that record was recorded, I believe, in 1998, beginning of 98, like winter, springish, because it came out in that summer. So I would have been 18, 19.
Yeah. Okay.
Writing it about 18 years old, probably about 19 when it came out, maybe 20, I don't know.
Did that record take you? Did it take you a long time to write? Were you guys like just on it? Had you been writing for the past couple of years and you kind of put shit together?
Oh, because it was a slog.
Yeah.
Total slog, because the band was like this revolving door of people coming in and out, mostly vocalists and bass players. Because between the time that the band started and by the time Until Your Heart Stops came out, I mean, we were a totally different band. And the writing kind of reflects that, like it's got that chaotic nature to it. And maybe that's why no other record like Haven sounds like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, so I have a vivid memory in 1998, I think it's when it came out, of driving around in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And we talked about this on my podcast, but that was a long time ago. So we probably both forgot about it because we both got really drunk. But I remember Big Dave, who owned the club in Winston-Salem, was playing it. We were trying to go to the Schaefer distillery, the beer brewery. We were trying to take a tour of the Schaefer brewery in Winston-Salem. And we were listening to Until Your Heart Stops. And I was just like, this record is fucking incredible. Like, incredible. Like, it just like kept pummeling me. I was like, oh, there's a Slayer riff. There's a fucking Metallica riff. There's this, there's that. And like, but it was fucking incredible. And you know, and I know, like, you know, obviously, like, you guys were taking your influences, you were kids, but like, it was done in such an amazing way. And you know, like, again, like you say, you'll never make another record that sounds like that, because you captured a moment of your lives that, you know, you were young and then you grew up and then you got to Jupiter. And Jupiter is another record that I have a weird connection to, because, and I believe we spoke about this before as well, but I remember singing in a parking lot in Patchogue, Long Island, with my band, with Air Type 11, and the guitar player Phil was like, "You got to hear this record." And he put on the first song on Jupiter, and it started playing, and I was like, and Phil was into like ska and pop punk, and I was like, and it started, it's like,
Oh,
I was like, yeah, this, what's that?
Jupiter was right up his alley then.
Oh yeah, no, but that was the weird part about it. I was just like, that first like part comes in with the vocal, and it kind of sounds like Astronomy Domine, and like you're just like, I'm like, yeah, dude, this is prog rock. This is fucking prog rock. Like, holy shit, like you finally got it. That's great. I love it. Let's write some songs. But it was
we start moving into Yes territory, and then you're really on board.
Yeah, but yeah, it was interesting to me to watch what you guys were able to do to a lot of these kids and change their minds. And this brings me back to another story of you guys playing at CB's and opening with the live version of Dazed and Confused, the 9-minute version. And I was just like, what the flying fuck are these guys doing? Like, and it was mesmerizing. I thought it was fucking incredible. And like, I mean, I'll let you talk more about it, but I just wanted to get my sort of like, little fanboy thing out of there. I mean, I Jupiter didn't change my life because I was already into prog, but I saw it change other people's lives, and I saw it change the scene. And I thought that was fucking cool as shit. And I thought what you were doing was just amazing on guitar. Amazing. So go.
Oh, hey. Well, yeah, going back to Until Your Heart Stops, I'm also remembering now that 2 or 3 of the members, we moved from the suburbs to Boston. That was a major change too. So our whole landscape changed at that point, Right. I mean, Methuen's, it's only a 45-minute drive, but still, it was a migration of sorts, just leaving the homeland, leaving the valley. We never totally left the valley though, get like 5 years, that accent just starts flying out of my face.
Wicked kid.
Oh yeah, dude.
I love it.
Hardcore. We're talking about hardcore here. Hardcore, yeah. Yeah, they went from fucking hardcore to space rock, dude. I don't know. What's up with that?
Is that what you would have considered it? Is space rock?
Well, it's, there were definitely spacier elements. We started using more of the delay pedals and the spacier effects that we started to kind of mess with on Until Your Heart Stops. We just exaggerate more. So, yeah, I mean, it just inevitably became a little more atmospheric because of that. So space rock's just, it's a 2-syllable that just rolls off the tongue.
I mean, how much, let me ask you this. How much because I played in Boston quite a bit, and I made a lot of friends up there, Brian McTurnan and Josh English and, Pepecki, and like I was, a lot of those guys lived together, and like I was, Joe from Garrison, whatever. How much did moving there influence you musically and lifestyle wise? Because it was, like I played in Worcester, and I played in Framingham, and I played, in these places. It is culture, Springfield, God help me. Like fucking, culturally, it's very different. Did that like really change your guys' perspective on music and being around all those great bands?
Yeah, absolutely. We were just in a totally new place. A lot of our friends had moved there at the same time too, like the Piebald guys. Actually, so what happened was they got a house in Alston, and so it was the 4 members of Piebald, and Kurt also lived there, and that's where Kurt made I don't know if it was the first God City location. I can't remember if he had called his studio God City prior to setting up in Alston, but in any case, that's where we made great thing. There was a wildfire that just that place. Just months after we made that record. And luckily he had moved his gear and wasn't in the house fire ripped through. But yeah, I mean, you go to a house where like all your friends are hanging out and there's a studio in the basement, like that. Just we weren't seeing that in the Merrimack Valley, had a major, and plus like take a train to meet each other places, or we could like ride our bikes like 2 towns or 2 sections of Boston over to like hang out. And we were still traveling north, like to rehearse up in the valley. You know, we were still like rehearsing in our parents' basements and stuff. But
That's where all the good stuff.
That's
where all the good stuff happens, though, dude.
Like,
that's where all the good stuff happens. It does.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, for years we strayed, but we didn't fly too far from the coop. You know.
So yeah, I'm seeing Mike Kirschbaum not asking a question, but talking about melding genres. At that time, like, what is obviously like there was the huge metal influence in the beginning and hardcore combo, like, but like with Jupiter, what were you taking from? What were you listening to that was influencing you into going into that sort of spacey idea?
Well, one real big turning point for Caven was doing a short tour with Neurosis. And
that
we
makes sense.
just started really getting into the Jupiter stuff, right? And like we felt like we were on this new trajectory, and we got these dates with Neurosis. It was Neurosis, Candiria, I forget who else was on the bill. But, you know, we were like these young kids, you know, barely just old enough to drive. And, you know, we just moved to Boston, and we're just like, ugh. You know, like I said, just youngsters, little shits still. And we get thrown on a tour with these, like, seasoned 80s hardcore vets. And we're just like, oh, man. So that was our environment for a week, and it really rubbed off on us. They were super nice, super cool. It just changed us. You know, we saw them kind of doing like heavy, loud, graceful, beautiful, psychedelic, but it could be slow, it could be methodical, it could be thinking man's type stuff. It could just, you know, it didn't have to just be completely pounding you, you know, every second of the way. So it sort of reaffirmed what we already started, and it helped us kind of continue on that path, just finishing writing the record confidently.
Yeah, that makes complete sense now. I didn't know that.
Also, a major difference was that Caleb Schofield was in our band, and we were writing stuff from the ground up with him. He didn't come into the picture until like late in the game with writing Until Your Heart Stops. And with Jupiter, that was our opportunity to embrace this new lineup that we had that felt the most solid it had been maybe ever, and start writing stuff from the ground up, start fresh. So
awesome.
Yeah, 2 major influences there. Yeah.
In public on my podcast, but like that was an interesting period. Antenna, the record that came out of it, was an incredible record. But you talk a little bit about like the process of like, I mean, getting signed was probably easy. It was like, oh yeah, did you guys have a bunch of labels that were interested, or was it?
Yeah, it started with like one. That's how it usually goes, or that's how it did go. I don't know how it goes now. Does it go?
No, it doesn't go anywhere now. Who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then for the first time, we had a publicist working the Jupiter record. It was Jessica Hopper. And that changed a lot of things for us, because she was far more widely connected in the world of S and beyond. Yeah. And I think through her that we ended up getting the interest of Bridget Wright, who was our manager for pretty much all of the time that we were even considering the idea of signing to a major label. So then it kind of went from there. You know, she used to manage Rage Against the Machine, Wu-Tang Clan. So, you know, it just was like, all right, here's the new world. All right, bring in all the new people. Let's do this. And it just sort of snowballed. Like I said, it started with 1 or 2 labels being interested, and then you know, then virtually all the labels feel like they have to kind of throw their hat in the name. And,
Of
you know,
course,
there's
yeah.
different levels of sincerity, and you just kind of have to
Right.
feel it out. And, you know, that's what we for several months, actually.
Yeah. And was did you guys take less money from RCA for, or like did you get offered bigger money by other labels and just you were like, no, we want to be with this people, or like was there? I know I had to deal with that, which totally bums me out in retrospect, but was there any of that, like where it was like a bidding war and like there was like money involved? And
I think so. I mean, there were just all these different characters to kind of, you know, you look this way and then like, oh, there's the guy that he's thanking one of the Metallica records. Okay, that's interesting. And then you're like, oh, but these people have like serious indie cred, and you know, they've been putting out some of my favorite records for years. And then you're like, oh, but you signed the Foo Fighters, and you know, it's like, so it's just like a whole head trip of, you know, which path to
right.
take. And as far as like negotiations, we actually had a really good lawyer who, with her help, when, I mean, I'm fast forwarding here, but when we eventually got dropped from RCA, there were things put into our contract. I approved it for an hour, so we're good to talk till you know.
I hope so. 9 o'clock. All right, so Antenna, is this a record, like, we don't have to go through the whole process of getting signed, because like, I mean, it's such a, I find like someday you and I will talk about this, like, and it will be like this antiquity type idea of like, like, yeah, we had a bidding war and like people were really excited about rock music. It's like, you know, that's almost impossible to find now. And, you know, like, cause they, you know, around that time, all they were looking for was bands who had built themselves up indie wise to the point where they didn't have to spend that much money to sell a certain amount of records, because rock bands cost a lot of money to support and build. And, you know, so you go into the studio for Antenna. Who do you go in with? What was like the process with producers and all the other shit?
Much like A&R people, that was a whole sort of whirlwind of where do we go, who do we work with, and there were a number of people on the table. So that was exciting. A lot of demos, a lot of demoing, a lot of recording the same songs over and over again, but with like different arrangements. And oh, he wants to do 3 choruses instead of 2, and he didn't like the bridge. And then, you know, I had like months of that where like, wait, which version of the song are we playing? Which one are we going with? But we ended up with Rich Costi, maybe because he's a fellow masshole. I don't know. But he also recorded the Swirlies, a beloved Massachusetts band of mine.
Absolutely.
Put out records on Tang. Yeah. But yeah, and actually there was some ambivalence from the label, because they were like, this guy's a mixer, this guy's an engineer, is he a producer? And he actually did have some really great input on the songs that we were working on. But yeah, his engineering skills are just amazing. And then, you know, obviously since he worked with Caven, like, he's gone on to do all kinds of great stuff.
Yeah, he's huge. Yeah.
Thanks to us. I will say this. During the mixing of Antenna, Muse had actually wanted to hear like an early mix of something that he was working on from Antenna, because they were considering working with Rich, and they obviously went with him on, what was the next record that they did? That was like 03. It was like, I think it was Absolution that the record was.
Yeah, oh, that's the big one. That's the big one. Yeah.
Yeah. So have Caven to thank for that.
I had a similar thing with Brian Virtue, who engineered the Instruction record. He went on to work with Rick Rubin and did did the second Audio Slave record, which he had some great stories about, because Rick is sort of involved. You know, it's like, send the tape, he'll listen to it, notes the next day, but he's doing like 5 records at once. You know, it's like super weird. Anyway, all right, let's talk about you. So, all right, so Antenna comes out, right? After, like, it took a while, right? It was a couple of years. Am I correct or no?
Well, the band signed to RCA, I believe, in like 2001. And then Antenna didn't come out until 2003. So the relationship with the label was about 2 years before we weren't making Antenna the whole time. But we recorded Antenna the summer before it came out. So that would have been summer of 2002. And then it was released in the spring of 2003. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does. I mean, well, I believe maybe I played Reading and Leeds. You guys, that was 2003, I believe.
We were also there too, but
It comes out. But like, so Antenna comes out, and what happens? Like, you know, like, this is supposed to be like the big major label deal. Like, are you disappointed by what's going on? Do you expect what's happening? Like, what? I mean, you guys weren't a small band. You were able to sell out like Irving Plaza, you know. So like, what happened?
you know, there's a big build-up. You know, we had some battles with the artwork. I mean, whether or not the band logo should be at the bottom or the top. We wanted it at the bottom. If it wasn't on the top, there was a fear that if people were going through the bargain bins, they weren't going to be able to find it.
Yeah.
You know, there's all these like little hurdles to jump, right?
Right.
And so
it's ridiculous.
It finally comes out, and and then I think within 3 weeks of the record's release, our A&R guy leaves RCA. Gone.
Okay.
So we're kind of just like, all right, well, we don't have an A&R guy. That's our main contact with the label. Management is like, it's okay, don't worry. You just got to stay busy. Just stay busy. So that's when we started touring a lot. And it was weird because the record obviously wasn't being pushed in the way that it may have been with an A&R guy that are just like rooting for the band. And we start just taking tours just to look busy. I mean, there was a situation where we toured Europe shortly after the album came out. We were doing a headlining tour, and we had just been there. We were in Europe like maybe 2 or 3 months prior and had a great tour. But it was like, you guys just need to look busy, so go back to Europe. They send us back to Europe. We do another headlining tour, and there's like half as many people at the shows. And we even have people coming up to us like, show was okay. Half people show up. Can you explain? We're like,
yeah. Why is there no
okay.
one here? I don't understand this. Yuppie side is here 2 weeks ago. They sell out. I don't understand why K-Ben can't sell out.
Venue was full 2 months ago. What happened? Why?
No one likes you. You're very great in a very bad way. Yes, I've heard all of it. So, all right. Yeah. So you guys are getting like kind of worn out by the whole situation, right? Is that pretty much?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
spiritually, you know.
So eventually RCA drops you, right? Is that kind of how it rolled,
yes.
Or was it? Right. And you guys you did an EP, if I remember correctly, after Antenna, right, on Hydra Head.
We put out a full length, but
oh.
yeah.
Okay.
So we had started making demos for what was going to be RCA record number 2, and the demos got passed around to our team. At that point, we did have a new A&R guy. So, you know, we got clearance to get some funding to make these demos, and they get passed around, and people are like, sounds like a step backwards for you guys. Bringing back the Cookie Monster vocals? What's up with that? And we're like, okay, I think it's time to leave. Let's get out of here. It's been nice.
Fuck, dude, new metal was big.
And
what the fuck? You guys would have won big time. What the fuck? Some things ain't right. Man. Let's do some Korn songs. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it. So you guys were trying to like reach out, like explore a little bit back into more of the metal realm, and they weren't digging it, and it was like peace.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier in the conversation, we did have some things in place with our contract that were very favorable towards the band in the scenario of being dropped from RCA.
It's called pay or play. I know it. Yes. I know it very well. I got fucked, but if you made some money, good for you. I agree.
We did. We not a ton, but people got paid out, and it definitely eased the pain of just all the weirdness of, you know, those last 6 to 9 months of being on RCA. And right. We got to keep the demos that we recorded. So we took those demos, we brought them to Andrew Schneider, and we started working on what was the follow-up to Antenna, and it became Perfect Pitch Black, released by Hydra Head.
Fucking awesome. You went to New Alliance with Andrew Schneider. Fucking kicked ass. It's fucking awesome, dude. Yeah, dude. Fucking awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wanted to sort of fast forward a little bit, just because we're only going to get 20 more minutes. And I could talk about Mutoid Man for 3 hours.
Well, I'll have to do this again.
Yeah, I know, right? We could. Well, we did 3. I think we did 3 hours the first podcast we ever did, which is so good. Although I doubt neither of us remember. Yeah, like I had to edit everything Nick said out, but like so like moving forward, like I wanted to ask you about Mutoid Man, just because, yeah, somebody's asked like, how did Mutoid Man come about? Because that was I mean, I know it was you and Ben at first. And that band is like such a fucking weird shit show. And so like interesting, and it's the first time that we get to see you really get shreddy. And that was really like when I was like, that's it. I've seen this guy play a fucking million times. This guy can do this. And you sang, which drove me fucking crazy. I was like, I couldn't do that in a million fucking years. So like, what was the like the thought process behind Mutoid and like and whatnot? Like, run me through it.
Sure. Well, 2011, I moved to New York after living in Boston for 14 years. And when I got here, I basically put my full stack in the closet in my apartment and stayed there for a month. And Ben Kohler had a rehearsal space in Williamsburg, beside the closet, but bigger than mine. And he was basically like, hey, get your full stack out your closet, bring it to my space, and let's jam. So I did, and that's what started Mutoid Man.
And so the first record was just you two guys, and you played bass on it, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
And then you decided to bring Nick in on the second record, right?
Yes.
That was like what? There was I mean, all right. So correct me if I'm wrong. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Nick joined the band shortly after the release of Helium Head, or was like maybe even before then, because Ben and I, you know, when we made that record, I was just thinking, oh, this is a cool recording project. Ben's got so much going on. You know, I'm not expecting anything more than that. And Ben was like, no, let's make this a band. So that's when we got Nick on board. And Nick actually mixed the very first Mutoid Man show, which was under the name Narcoleptic Beagle. And
yes, I remember.
Vitus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ben it is a two-piece, and Nick mixed that show. So that's where we first met, actually, or at least I may have met Nick before that, actually, at a show where he was doing sound for A Storm of Light. Yeah, I think that's where I first met Nick. But yeah, it was after that two-piece show that Ben and I did where we started all talking about making it a band together, and that's where the name came in. You know, I might be messing up the dates a little bit, but
it's okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I was just
this
like
later, right?
No, this is none of it's getting edited, dude. It's all live, baby. Don't fuck it up. This ain't no 2 minutes of late night fucking broadcast, motherfucker. So fucking. So yeah, like Mutoid, like you guys played a shit ton. So basically, Mutoid became the St. Vitus house band, essentially. Besides Primitive Weapons, you guys are pretty much the. It seems necessary. You guys kind of became the house band, and that was like so awesome to me. And then you guys moved your shit in to rehearse for the next 2 years, and I was like, fuck me.
Still there, actually.
Some of it is, yeah. And but it was like it was such an eye-opening experience to experience you guys writing and whatnot. It was like cool as shit. I really enjoyed it, and you know, as like annoying it could be to like, oh my god, they're here again. Fuck, I like I'm so fucking tired, and I gotta fucking deal with all the shit I gotta deal with, and blah blah blah. But like, I would sit there and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. And it was funny. It was funny to like. It was also funny to watch you sort of run the band, the way that you would deal with things. Like, is it necessary to yell? I can't figure out people.
People have been saying that about years.
But like so, with Cave In and all the bands you were in, your solo stuff, you never really had this sort of weird sense of humor that you have in Mutoid Man. And then correlating into 2 minutes to late night, what was that all about? Like, how did you feel about like letting that loose? Because it really felt like it let loose, and like it was a different person than I really knew. I was like, wow, like when you would get on stage with Jordan and do shit, I was like, wow, that's cool. And it was awesome. It was funny. You're fucking funny. Like, how do you feel about all that shit? Like, I mean, it's nerdy funny, but it's funny. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, you know, you're totally right. I think it had something to do with me moving to New York. That kind of shaking things up a little bit. Just a new start in a new place. It's not very far from Massachusetts, obviously, but it's far enough that I was able to kind of get my own world. And yeah, I think 2 minutes to late night, Jordan and you know, finding sort of like a character to play on the show, you know, just a guy that just pops off all the time and screams all of his lines, you know, like it just it all just kind of circled together and you know, ran, you know, and Ben and Nick, obviously, like they exacerbated, you know, and
oh yeah, I mean Nick is hysterical. Nothing serious comes out of his mouth ever. So.
He is genuinely one of the funniest people I've ever met.
Yeah, he's like in improv, he's fucking fantastic. Really, really
amazing. Good. Yeah.
And Ben 100%. Too. Ben was willing to play silly time. You know, like
yeah.
It's interesting just because like you guys musically was so fucking serious. Musically, you were so serious. Like we toured together, and like, you know, watching you on stage, blah blah blah, and then like in between songs, it'd be like just a fucking shit show, and the middle finger stuff, which was super fun. Like I loved all of it. Like I was so jealous of how much fun you guys had. It was so carefree and so awesome, and like I'm really like please make another Mutoid record, please tell me you are.
I would love to. I really would. I think that's been the idea all along, but you know, life happens, and you know, I don't know what else to say. It's
Well,
just been a
no, I mean,
whirlwind
you're
25
you're busy. You're busy with what, like Old Man Gloom, your solo shit, the stuff with Marissa Nadler, like like you've just done so much. I mean, I know the world is a shit show right now, so it's not really pertinent to sort of discuss like album cycles and what's going to happen next. Everything's up in the air, but like
Yeah.
where are you at with all that? Like like what are you feeling as far as where your music's going to go?
It's interesting. I have like half the power over it. The other half is all the people involved in the various bands and projects that I do. So lately, my concentration has been Haven and Mutoid Man, just writing new stuff with both bands. I mean, Old Man Gloom just put out a record this year, and it's unfortunate that we can't tour on it right now. But I'm very happy with the way that all came out. You know, I think we did right by the band. The band's like, you know, I tried to write by Caleb, and yeah. I mean, making music, it's like, that's the way I keep in touch with my friends. That's the weirdest thing, actually, about not touring right now, is like, that's how
Yeah.
I see my friends. That's how we spend time together. You know, we got to
Yep.
practice, and then we take a break, and then go get dinner, and you know, I'll end up staying over somebody's house because inevitably I'm traveling to Massachusetts. So, you know, we're doing all that remotely right now, and it's, you know, at least keeps us in touch. It's definitely not the same as playing in a room together, as I'm sure you can relate to, and you know, we're old souls. So. But yeah, things are happening. It's just, you know, just kind of happening in the shadows right
It's
now, which I'm
slow.
fine with. I'm totally cool operating in the shadows.
Yeah, I know you are.
Cool in the sun.
Yeah, it's so the last thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was you being a staff writer at BMG, and what that sort of entails, because I mean, this is very interesting to me as a songwriter, and like what the stuff that you did, because like you're just so vastly talented across many arrays of styles. Like what exactly did you do for BMG when you were doing your thing?
Well, I first started my relationship with them as a co-writer. They wanted to sign me to a co-publishing deal, which I did, and it was a whole new world to me. I was always kind of aware of what that world was, but getting into it was like very eye-opening. And basically, I just had the opportunity to write music more and write with people that were from all different worlds, on the musical map, so to speak. You know, way outside of my comfort zone, which you know, it's always a gamble, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but you know, the experiences that I've had doing that have just really played a major role in the growth of my own songwriting, especially with lyrics, you know, because when you're working with people you don't really know, and like you're getting to this, like, all right, what's the song about? Like, you have to talk about it. And that's something that I always haven't been very good at, is like discussing lyrics with, you know,
You never did it with
with
a producer or anything? You never like had sat down with a producer and like talked about lyrics or anything? Or
not as much as I could. I mean, Rich and I went back and forth a little bit, but you know, it's tough. I think that's like a very sensitive area for people, and I think maybe at that time, kind of like you said at the beginning of this interview, where like I can kind of give off a standoffish nature. Like, I may have not have invited that possibility to Rich at that time.
right.
So fast forward 15 years later, and I'm doing stuff with BMG. It's totally changed my approach on things, and especially with lyrics. So I've had the opportunity to work with some great bands. Painted Wives, we co-wrote and I co-produced their record that's coming out this year. They're an awesome band from Huntington Beach. Cane Hill, their last record, I did some stuff with them. Yeah, it's kind of a long list. Silverstein from somewhere.
Canada. Yeah.
Toronto. Yeah.
Somewhere in Canada.
And yeah, and lots of other stuff too that's just sort of under the radar. And but I also worked there. I worked the front desk. I did some temp work at BMG. They've been very generous to me, very cool, and I've made some good friends over there too. And yeah, it's cool. It's definitely kept me afloat in New York. It added to the purpose of me being here.
Right. And there are some other semi-famous people who like Carlos from Cody and Cambria is also a writer there, if I remember correctly. Like there's been some
Claudio?
other Claudio. Sorry, I'm such a dick. Yeah, Claudio. Like he's a writer as well. Is there anybody else that we should know about that's secretly writing things? Like,
yeah,
Claudio's a great person to secretly write things.
Yeah. Oh, Claudio and I have worked on a bunch of stuff together. Not for any specific purpose other than just seeing what kind of cool stuff we could come up with. And yeah, that's really come out. I don't know how much he's done outside of that through BMG. I'm not sure. But trying to think who else. Oh, Vinny Caruana.
Oh, Vinny Caruana, of course, from the movie Live. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. I've known him since he was like 14.
'93. Sorry, Vinny.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, actually,
Vin won't be upset.
Yeah. What did I call him? Caruso?
Cool, man. That's awesome. Caruso. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if Caruana's Italian the same way Caruso is, but I mean, whatever. He's from Long Island, so he'll understand. That's awesome, man. Like, so yeah, I was always interested in like what you were doing with all that stuff because it is that co-writing stuff is always very mysterious and interesting, and like I'm glad that you did it because it sounds like it's an incredibly rewarding situation. I did it for a little bit, and I found it the same thing. It was like being thrust into these situations of writing with different people where you like they didn't necessarily want you to be there, and you're like, hey, okay, I just flew across the country to hang out with you, and let's try and write. And the first thing I would do is bring them out to a bar, get drunk, and then go back and try and figure something out. Because it was just like let's have fun, like songwriting is fun. It should be fun. It shouldn't be this crazy pressure cooker thing that makes you uncomfortable and shitty. I mean, I understand why it would, but we're in the middle of a pandemic, so if it's not fun, don't do it right now. At least.
Yeah,
I think.
Agree.
So
100%.
Last thing I wanted to talk about, we have 4 minutes. So the 2 minutes of late night stuff, you guys did a cover record, right? You played on a lot of it. Am I correct? Yeah. And it's available on Bandcamp or?
I believe it was for a day. I'm not sure that up.
Okay. What was your favorite song you guys did?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Wow. Well, I have to say, recently, 4th of July by Soundgarden, and learning a Soundgarden song and having that musical experience now in my DNA is pretty transformative.
Dude,
I mean, they've been
Jordan's vocals were ridiculous.
He crushed it.
What the fuck? He crushed it. I was like,
really
holy
did.
shit.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I barely paid attention to your guitar playing. Because, oh man, he's fucking fantastic, that guy. Incredible.
Well,
are there more future?
There's some similarities if you really think about it, like that range.
Oh yeah. Like, it's really hard to do. Super hard to do.
People know. They know when you get on the mic and sing Judas Priest "Screaming for Vengeance." Woo! Fucking.
Remember the karaoke days, buddy? That was so much fun. So much fun. Christ, never again. All right.
I think
I'm gonna call it.
I drunkenly sang a Caven song at karaoke at St. Vitus.
Shut the
of
fuck
course,
up.
Like, and of course, halfway through, the machine just stops and it's just dead silent, as if it couldn't get more awkward.
Well, that's very fitting for the end of our talk. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I fucking miss you, dude. You're the best, and I'm so glad I've seen you so much on the internet. Keep it up. You're the shit. You have the best right hand in fucking rock. I can't do it because I'm lefty, but I can try and imitate it. And you're the shit. I love you, dude. Cheers, and thank you. Thank you for watching Age of Quarantine. And scene. Good night.
Bye, Artie. Great to see you. Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
buddy. Love you.